Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Brand Building in the Era of AI. I'm Justin Lewis. I'm the chair of Constellation. It's a network inside Stagwell. Prior to that, I was the founder of Instrument Digital Agency. And today I have a wonderful panel of folks. We're going to let them introduce themselves.
Hi there, I'm Treff. I am the co-founder and co-chief creative officer of Highdive Advertising.
Hey everybody, I'm Mike Treff. I'm the CEO of Code and Theory, which is a digital transformation company.
Hi, I'm Ryan Lehr. I'm the Co-CCO at Deutsch LA.
Hi everyone, I'm Avery Akkineni. I'm the president at Lehr, which is a Gary Vaynerchuk company, and we focus on all things innovation and helping the world's leading brands navigate the next era of the internet. So super excited to be with y'all today. Thanks for showing up early.
Awesome. We're going to get right into the questions. Question one, how do you see AI reshaping the way brands approach their campaign strategies? And I guess, have you noticed any shifts? And just, please discuss any kind of trends or insights y'all have.
I can start. I think that the biggest thing it's going to do in AI in the most positive way, it really just removes a lot of the barriers from idea to execution. So I think because of that, brands are going to get bolder and riskier and do a lot of braver work in the very near future where they traditionally haven't. Because I think they can take these risks without blowing the budget, and they can try things. And so I think that's the most exciting part. We'll see what the immediate future.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, we talk to our clients all day about it, that everybody wants to do something. Not sure what to do. We advise our clients if we want to do something splashy, get a press release, like we certainly could do that, push it out into the world, but we try to take a step back to figure out how the way we integrate AI, whether it's into the marcom work, whether it's on the efficiency side, whether it's in the business, can really set a longer term strategy so you can build equity on top of all the things you're doing with AI as opposed to one-offs. However, to the question, a lot of our clients want to do one-offs.
I think that's right, and I think as these tools, as people want to use them, and like Snapple, for instance, we just did a project with them, and it was a little bit of a one-off. But I think as long as brands use things that are like part of the equity of the brand equity, like for instance with Snapple, we used the cap. Everyone knows that Snapple has like these facts under the cap, and we built a kind of first of its kind tool that allowed people to create their own Snapple facts. So they could type in, like prompt it, and we created a UX for it, and it allowed people to, sort of interact with the brand, something that everyone knows about the brand. And so it felt very sort of inherent to what Snapple and like things people know about Snapple. At the same time, like we also have like other clients that are interested in sort of diving into it, but if it doesn't make sense for the brand, then they shouldn't necessarily use it.
I love that Snapple example, and I think we've seen a lot of brands do really interesting work that capitalizes on the relevance that AI is such a hot topic right now. Like there's probably 1,000 panels at Cannes this week talking about AI. We're all thinking and talking about it, and whether it's the Heinz ketchup ad, or it's what you just talked about with Snapple, or what Nikon just did, sort of bringing people back to reality of photography. I think there's a relevance factor right now. There's also a novelty of like AI is the next big thing. Let me do a campaign about it. And I think that's not a bad place to play right now. What I think will happen over the next year is we'll shift from AI being the novelty to AI being the norm, and integrate it into the campaign planning process, whether that is through insights generation or sort of synthesizing data to the upfront component, or leveraging generative AI to help with mood boarding or concepting or taglines or asset generation, all the way through to production. And text to video is probably one of the use cases that we at Vayner are most bullish on, just in terms of scaling the total number of potential variations and enabling a more personalized experience. I think that will drive like tremendous efficiency and effectiveness for our brand partners. But certainly, we're not there yet. We're at the very early innings of this sort of next wave of how generative AI is revolutionizing the whole campaign process.
That's great. We'll move on to the next question. So, this is kind of the question I feel like everybody goes to is like, what are the ethical considerations, that brands should bear in mind when incorporating AI into kind of strategies? And again, any learnings or anything there?
In addition to protecting artists across every discipline, I think authenticity is the big watch out that we're talking to our clients about. I think people want to know what's real and what's not, and I think when the lines are blurry, that's a little scary. A lot of our brands, take like Jeep for example, they pride themselves on authenticity and real life experiences. When we start to blur the lines a little bit on what they're seeing in any kind of ad, I was like, did the Jeep do that? Was it real? I think it's going to build a lot of distrust. So really, I think as like an industry, we're going to have some kind of bug or something that tells the world like this happened or didn't. And brands just got to be precious with the way they're portraying themselves.
Yeah, I think there's just an explosion of content creation that's been happening already for the past decade, but in the era of AI, that's only going to accelerate. And there are funny examples, right? Like the popper jacket that's like haha that most people thought was real and didn't understand that was actually generative AI, and that's a funny example. But then there was also someone who created multiple examples of viral piece of content created, whether it's a political figure being arrested or a fake bombing in Washington D.C. that actually impacts things like the stock market and impacts political perception. So I think that there are tremendous legal and ethical implications of leveraging generative AI. It's the reason I think that most publicly traded companies are not playing in this space in a way that's very risky. Like, a lot of our partners are like, my risk tolerance is 0, Avery. So yeah, I think that there's a very important consideration of, understanding what goes into this and ultimately how brands portray themselves or, give access to their data needs to be really, really, really thoughtfully considered.
Chad and I were talking before, it's like a business affairs nightmare. It's like the whole idea, because again, you want to make sure that it's ethically sourced, especially when it gets to like visuals. And, I think Adobe, they just released Firefly, and they really went to a lot of lengths to make sure that it's ethically sourced. And so that'll be interesting to see how Firefly sort of gets integrated into the creative process.
Look, it's a really broad question. It's an important question. There's tons of sides to this. There's the legal and compliance side. Everyone's risk tolerance is very low for that. The bigger the company you are, the more risk averse you need to be. There's the transparency, to your point, piece on this of what are we tricking consumers with versus where are we being transparent. There's obviously the societal harm piece of it, the fake information. We're going into an election cycle in the United States. We can leave politics off of this for a second, but you can see how that could be a problem. I think that one area where the ethical and bias considerations are sort of overlooked right now is in the data sets that sort of power the models and the sources that lead into what comes out of it. And that's not just on the gen side, that's also on the analytics and computational side. If we are, and we have been as an industry, and we have been as people, we've tried to build, inclusivity, we've tried to build DEI as really part of the fabric of business and life. The data sets that go into these models that lead to the output are so critically important to make sure that they are representational, and I don't think anyone's talking about that. So that's the last area that I think needs some attention.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because I think a lot of most of the generative tools and data sets are still really pretty confined. A lot of them go back to things that were generated like 2019, 2020, pretty limited sets of information. Next question is just, simply, I guess, what brands are effectively using AI? Do y'all have any examples or anything that I guess you're actually impressed by?
Snapple. Thanks, Chad. I appreciate it.
Good job.
I bribed them to say that.
Oh, I do love the Snapple example. You were just saying, it is a very, we were joking to it, we're in a very NFT part of AI right now where the novelty of it is everything. And so the better examples are maybe a little less sexy, just the way Spotify is used into the personal DJs and the personalization of Lenovo and brands like that at a very functional level. I think is some of the better examples that don't necessarily draw a bunch of headlines because it's maybe a little less fun, but from like a consumer experience, it's really using their data set and then, what you know about the consumer to provide a completely different experience versus, can you make this cheeseburger and it's a little bit off,
I think what Avery mentioned earlier too, the Heinz example was, so brilliant, because really what it did is just proved how strong the brand was. It was like, even AI knows ketchup is Heinz. And so again, I think that was just such a way to prove, the brand itself is like front and center, and even a computer would know that that's ketchup.
I have 3 examples of brands that I really like, and I think you also bring up a great point because everyone's familiar with the Spotify Wrapped campaign, which has been running for the last several years, and that leverages AI just as it's saying. I think now we're in this place where everybody wants to add AI at the end of everything. If you walk down the street, every company is an AI company now. But I think there's 3 brands that really stand out to me in the past year of successfully integrating AI into their marketing efforts. The first is Coca-Cola. Like, they have this partnership with OpenAI that's very public, and they've done a lot of cool stuff that actually enables consumers to co-create with the brand, which I think is really interesting and fun, and it ties into their brand positioning of real magic. And AI does seem like magic to internet users, so I think that really makes sense. The second is actually Salesforce. So Salesforce has been an early mover in this space, and they have a product called Einstein GPT, which basically takes all of your, and I'm sure half of you sitting in here are Salesforce users, or your companies are. It basically takes your very rich consumer data and enables insights to be pulled from that in a very privacy-safe, enterprise-ready way. I think that's going to create a lot of automation and a lot of better usage of their tools, and they helped bring that to market in the last couple of months. They just had a live stream of 55 people on it showing how AI is improving their tools. And the third is actually a random example, but Carvana. I saw they did this really cool campaign that, again, they pulled from their very rich CRM of what kind of car you have, when you bought it, and they combined that with publicly available information like what the weather was like and like what was trending at the time, and enabled 1.3 million personalized videos to say like, hey Avery, on June 11th, bought your white Tesla and it was in Miami and it was raining, and they pulled all of this from AI, and I thought it was a really nice way to combine information that they have in a fun sort of personalized manner. Like the craft isn't going to win a Cannes Lion, but I think that use of data and relevance, also created a really nice earned media flywheel kind of across social.
How do you like your Tesla?
I love it.
Well, Tesla's an interesting example because they're actually secretly an AI company. Because like when people try to create autonomous drivers, they created sensors, and they like other companies are trying to create an autonomous driver using sensors. Well, Tesla decided to create AI through video, so that way they would teach the car to drive by teaching the car that that's a person, that's a fire hydrant, that's a sidewalk. And so in a way, Tesla is sort of like kind of Trojan horsing AI into everyone's lives.
It's so true, and it builds on sort of what you were saying earlier, that AI has been here for a really long time. The conversation hasn't been here for a really long time, and the generative front end content that touches consumers really hasn't been here for a long time, but everything else has. So when you think about the best companies, even Tesla, even the way they govern their battery usage is very AI enabled. So when you think about these companies and brands doing it well, I think the ones that are doing fantastic are the ones where it actually is transparent to the consumer. And yes, they may build activations on top of it. They may find cost efficiencies and speed to market efficiencies by using it in the front end on campaign and advertising work. But the people who have had a commitment to building automation, to building better consumer experiences, better personalization engines over the long term have really done the best. And you see it. It's like the Amazon product recommendation. It's like one of the most powerful in the world. Amazon maybe, my clients aren't here, but Amazon may be like a terrible user experience unless it's super directed. Maybe we can talk about that, but the recommendation works. Instagram, their ad platform, and the targeting on top of it is all built on artificial intelligence, and all of us are victim to clicking all of the sponsored ads on Instagram and buying things completely unnecessarily. So those companies have got a real commitment. It's not true. Glasses.
Yes. I'm the moderator, so I'm not supposed to give an answer, but I'll give one as well. I'm pretty inspired by like Nike material sciences. Like, there's a lot of really cool stuff happening in fashion design, just based on AI generating different material patterns, and I think that's pretty compelling. And then I do think Microsoft right now has a chance to probably take search and completely reimagine the search engine, which is a legacy business model at this point. It's a 20-plus-year-old business, and to kind of reconstitute the way we use the internet to find things is terribly compelling. And I want to point out one thing, and you guys can talk about this, is like, I think when we talk about AI and marketing in particular, it goes so far beyond marketing. Like, the really compelling stuff starts to get into product, and then product creates an ability to tell story, which actually generates marketing. So, the use of AI goes way beyond just thinking about advertising and marketing campaigns, and that's the stuff I think is really compelling.
100%. Sorry to hog, but for 100%, like if you think about the implications on research for AI and the ability to not need necessarily to create human panels because you can replicate that intent on AI and get immediate feedback and response. If you think about speed to market on the computational side of healthcare or market research, or even to your point, product, to use the data sets appropriately so that you can have a competitive advantage in your product, in your service, in your experience, to then build the Marham stories off of that can then deliver the real loyalty, like that's the opportunity.
I mean, AI does go beyond marketing, but if we keep AI busy making ads, it will not take over the world. So I feel like that's like
Distraction tactic.
strategy.
That's a great point. All right. I guess, how should brands think holistically about, integrating AI across, business as opposed to just looking at it through? I mean, that's the question we just asked is really what does it look like integrated into a business instead of thinking about it just as a marketing or advertising lever? And I think we started to touch on that, but there's, I think, a lot of really great examples to talk about.
I mean, what they have to start doing is just using it every single day across everything, and just develop that shorthand and that muscle. And they're from emails to product design. You're on LinkedIn for 2 seconds, and the brand collabs that just the internet is dishing out there. They're exciting and they look good. And you don't really have to imagine it; like you see it. And I don't know. What we're doing right now is a lot of education with clients, but just more than anything, just use it every single day. That's what we started talking about it. Anything about apply it to. What about the
Just watch out for flying coffee cups and
they haven't control the weather yet? Turn down the winds.
The map goes back.
Treff, go ahead.
Sure. I mean, look, we've talked about it already, but there's 2 things to take away. I think one, and I'm going to build on what you said because it's dead on. Building the culture. If you're a brand, if you're a company or a business, and you want to integrate AI in meaningful ways, you have to build a test and learn agenda to figure out where to apply to your business and where are the real value points. Everyone is going to figure out sort of process efficiency, speed to market. Great, I can get concept boards done in an hour. Like everyone's going to get there. That's parity. So where can you use it as an opportunity to tell even better stories, create a better product, and create a better service? How can you use it as a better data layer? The questions can only be answered if you experiment and you build a robust culture of testing and experimentation. Now, a lot of marketing organizations aren't necessarily built to do. So there's a change management piece to this that's really, really important. And then the other one is on service, just customer service, sit broadly, where we're not just talking about the chatbot that's super annoying and wrong as you then have to funnel down to a human being. We're talking about product recommendation. We're talking about a synthesis of when you metaphorically walk onto a conversion environment or a travel site, you're trying to book something. It knows enough about you to give you relevant things, some relevant discovery with some content that's going to surprise and delight you. That's service. So those areas, testing and learning and really building a culture of that, and thinking about every interaction as some sort of service statement to your customer or B2B customer, I think is the real place.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I think the use cases for AI are very vast, and marketing is 1% of them. I actually think most of them are related to how companies are going to develop their products. And I don't think that every company is going to build a massive large language model. I think they're going to partner with companies like OpenAI to create, the right enterprise-grade environments to deliver better experiences to their customers. So we're seeing this in early use cases like an Instacart, where you can say, great, I want to make a lasagna tonight, and I want it to be low fat and high protein, and then they have a partnership with Instacart that actually gets automatically added to your grocery cart, and you can buy it. Same thing we're seeing with travel and real estate, where you can combine your own company's data sets with what's these incredible models to develop tools for customers. So I think that's a place that we'll see a lot of development in the next year or 2. I don't think that will be driven by the marketing team, but we will get to do fun campaigns once the product's launched.
Yeah, maybe Avery, to build on that a little bit too. I think one of the things that's a huge opportunity for clients and businesses alike is just you start thinking about AI as these individual moments of intelligence, right? But you start chaining them together, and that's when it gets really interesting. So you start taking a thing that generates something, and if you push it into like another layer where just through complete automation it will, generate a call out to a delivery service or something. So, I think you're going to see a lot of businesses invent services based on chaining together 2, 3, 4 layers of AI simultaneously, and that's going to create sort of unlimited potential.
Also, the multimodal functionality of combining a few of these things, whether it's text and audio or video and imagery or something like that, will start to come together. Right now, we're seeing a lot of these operate as like point solutions and silos. I think we'll start to see these further integrated.
And even as far, one last point, when you think about what a website, what a website is, and how there's historically been an information architecture, there's a structure, and you have to follow it and learn it to get to where you want to go, that probably is going to change. The interfaces of the future will probably be dynamic and progressive based on what you're trying to do as the user, and you don't need to fall into the website structure. You could just semantically do it with some of the generative abilities of AI, and all of a sudden the site is really turning into a very personalized experience around what you're trying to do, with obviously the preference of the business and what it's trying to show. So when you think as a marketer about even your touch points in your ecosystem, like they're going to change, and they're not going to look the same. And then when we can integrate those sorts of interfaces off platform and out into your campaigns and out into your media, then all of a sudden you have a data set that sits across everything because it's your model.
The really interesting thing is that it's not even just about the user experience. It's like we'll all have personal AI. Like I'll have my AI that's almost like, again, it's almost the promise of R2D2. Like we're all gonna have our own like droids, It's like AI will be your personal assistant. It'll be something that you can, basically schedule your day. So my AI is gonna interact with your brand's AI and then your brand's AI. And I don't know. To me, that's where it gets very interesting.
One use case I think is really interesting. This isn't a marketing campaign or initiative, but there's this company called Replica where there's an epidemic of loneliness happening in our world, and people want friends, and Replica essentially allows you to create like a virtual, kind of like the Joaquin Phoenix movie, The Her thing. You can define a friend who's really interested in advertising, who loves to style brands, who loves all the things that you love, and it can be your girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever you want it to be, best friend. As this sort of generative AI conversation takes up, I just started like experimenting with a bunch of tools that have been around for a very long time, and I think we're going to see this sort of personality development continue to emerge as like a product use case.
Do you think that's going to help loneliness or perpetuate it?
We probably have a panel just on that.
What the personal AI thing is to filtrate your personal AI how you want it to interact with brands. And the brands are going to have to respond with the trends, the way people are. People don't like ads. People don't love being affected by brands, and their resistance is going to get smarter. It's going to just be a back and forth, and then there'll be harmony in what you like and what you don't like.
I do think too there's also risk of over implementing AI to the point where then human sort of interaction will be a premium to a degree. It's similar to like when things were like call centers are being outsourced. It's like at a certain point, if brands sort of lean too heavily on AI, it'll probably risk maybe that interaction being too mechanical. And so by getting a human, you might end up having like,
I think craft even matters more. Like that craft, those big breakthrough ideas actually are going to become really important in a sea of like vanilla AI.
I totally agree with that. It's not either or, actually. It's probably both can accentuate it. It's just when you apply each.
Yeah, there's a good example of this. If anybody's ever looked at Perplexity.ai, it's a example of a search engine that pretty much abstracts the internet. So to your point, Mike, it's like you never actually get to a website in a traditional sense anymore. It's like AI just scrapes all the information and just presents it to you in a sort of distilled fashion. And I do think we're going to see pretty rapidly this like service layer of information that you could get kind of like you did through voice. That will just take a lot of the aspects of the internet and just serve them to you, and that creates a much better life experience, not just user experience. So
Deutsch Digital actually, sorry, little humble brag plug here. Deutsch Digital it actually just created a similar API thing is called Shorty, and what it does is if you go to a website or you go to an article, and it'll basically summarize that article for you. And we even put different filters so it can give you like a clickbait headline of what the article is, or even like a funny version of it that like allows you to sort of decide how you want this article summarized. But that's what it does. it makes life a little bit easier. So you don't have 20 minutes to read this article. It'll summarize it in like a little paragraph. So if you want to download Shorty, you can talk to me after.
So, what would the personality of your personal AI be? Like, I think mine's going to be condescending and somewhat funny and probably actually talk back to me, which is, but what about you?
I already have a kid.
I'm gonna train it to be Larry David and just hours and hours of curve.
My prompt is always smart grumpy. That's like the tone I like when I'm digesting info.
I think mine will just be efficient delivery of information. Less talking, more value.
C3PO.
All right, we're going to move kind of into a final question. Just, looking to the future, I guess just share your thoughts, predictions on AI. What are you excited about? I guess, what are you excited about happening next? I think, we are on this long journey of AI. There's a lot of technology that's been there for a long time. The conversation's a little fresh. But I think we are at the precipice of massive change, and we're seeing, the advancement in the technology now in consumers' hands turn over almost on a week-over-week basis. Like, we do this project to track sort of all the advancements in AI, and it's the most exhausting thing in the world to try to keep up with at this point. But I guess just what are you all excited about? What would you like to see happen next?
Really excited about people getting more hands-on. I think a lot of times people are listening to panels or reading articles and not being real practitioners of this. So, my challenge to everybody who's here and taking the time to listen to these things is to get involved yourself, because you can build things that are amazing and incredible that help automate and improve your day-to-days, like not as marketers, but just as people. So I'm excited to sort of embrace that consumer side of it. And I think we'll see a lot more of that happen in the next year.
Oh, yeah, I think it's similar point. It's democratizing creative, which is interesting, and I think the more people play with it, the smarter it gets, and the more people sort of create with it. It's surprising, and I think as Chad said, you just go to LinkedIn for a minute, and you see something, and you're like, wow, why didn't I think of that? And you almost get that. What a great use of AI, or what an interesting, and it'll be interesting to see what also new sort of anytime you introduce a new tool, you're creating almost new sort of avenues and talents. Like, you might not know you're the best prompter of AI, and that's something that you wouldn't know until today, because now that's going to be a thing, like a prompt engineer. It's similar to I don't know, before race cars, who knows? Like, Abraham Lincoln might have been the best race car driver of all time. There weren't cars yet. So again, who knows what sort of tools and how talents people have out here. So I just encourage people to play with AI.
I have the nerdiest answer of all time to this.
I'm ready.
I'll go after you.
Okay. I want the regulation, actually, because I think as soon as we have a real governance regulation over it, then you can unlock the real creativity, because you know where the playing field is. And right now, we don't really know where the playing field is, and brands are scared because they don't have any sort of IP or governance model around that. So as soon as we actually get some regulation and standardization around this, it probably unlocks the creativity, because despite, this is another super nerdy thing, I actually think constraints are what drive creativity more than anything else, like having a sandbox, not just having an open sky.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. I go back to, I'm excited for the novelty phase to be over with. I'm excited to brands racing to do something with AI just to steal the headlines that it was AI. It's so interesting. If we had this panel in 2 months, it would be a very different conversation. And then a month later, a very different conversation. And the speed of the way this is all coming together is insane. And I don't know, I think when it really starts getting past just the flash and really smart ideas, and some that we've talked about, I think that's going to become a more and more just regular part of what we do every day. That's going to be fun. And, it's going to be a level playing field for everyone. The budgets are not going to be as restrained. They're not going to be restrained anymore, and everyone's going to be able to do anything. So,
I will what Avery said too. Is I think it's a way to, experiment.
and, remember when we used to build our sites and no one went? Yeah, we just have to commit to good ideas and not rush. And it's okay not to be a pioneer all the time with all the brands.
That's great. Let's start with Avery. Any final thoughts just on this, AI topic? Anything?
Yeah, it's interesting to hear y'all's perspective of like, starting and running agencies for like 20 years, which I haven't done for that long, but I think that this is really pivotal moment, like ChatGPT got, 1 million users in 5 days, it had 100 million users in a month. That is a transformational shift in how consumers experience the internet. So, if someone in this crowd or here is thinking about like, hey, maybe this is an interesting like moment of time to create something new, I think people are really curious about this space right now. And if I was a production studio, I would be leaning in 1,000,000% and finding those use cases where you can prove that this is beneficial immediately, not from a theoretical perspective, but from a practical perspective. I think these waterside moments do happen. And I don't think generative AI is the microsite. Yeah, I think it's significantly bigger than that, and there are going to be people who find like a really clear niche that they can double down on and bring value to brands. And I think it's a great time to look into doing something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to filter its way through every aspect of the business. I do believe it's probably bigger than Flash Science at the same time. We've done enough here to justify humanity's role in advertising and marketing. We can potentially keep our jobs for at least another 10 years open.
Yeah. By the way, AI is not a microsite. I just meant it's like looking for that flash in the pan stuff. But I more than anything, everyone's got to embrace it at every single corner. And what's nice about a little hesitation, just legally in business affairs, is like it allows everyone to immerse and become an expert when there's a little bit more clarity. And yeah, it's like fighting the AI would be like fighting the internet. So it's exciting, I'm excited for what's to come.
I guess that's the cue for the end. That was the gong. Yeah. I want to thank you all for coming. Thank you to our class. Thank you to OpenAI for making a bunch of amazing technology and kind of enabling us to do some awesome stuff.
I did that because the taking it out.